Hey, good morning folks. I've been asked repeatedly to do a video on how to brew kombucha step by step, start to finish. So I figured I'd go ahead and do that. And I'm going to be shooting this in stages over the course of a few days to show you the whole process. It's really easy actually. It's not really time consuming once you get everything set up. And the finished product is actually very good and very good for you. I'm going to do the proverbial knock on wood here. I'm the only one in the house that drinks it, and everybody in the house has been sick except for me. My wife has been sick. My mother has been sick, actually in the hospital. I drink this every day and did not get sick. Once again, knock on wood, I'm probably jinxing myself. But anyway, it's got a lot of health properties to it. Plus, I don't drink soda and I don't drink beer anymore, so this is my carbonation now. This is what I do for carbonation. Anyway, here is some that I just bottled up, and I will get into the whole process later in this video of how it gets to this point. This is just bottled up. It'll sit on the counter for 3 days. Anyway, we'll get into that later. Here is some that is ready to drink. This was flavored with grape jelly. It's regular old grape jelly. It sat on the counter for 3 days and then has been in the refrigerator for a while. It's ready to drink now. Bear with me here. You can see the carbonation there. Anyway, that's what it looks like when you pour it in a glass, when your brew is done right and your culture is done right. I'm going to cut the video for now, and I'll be back in a little bit for the next step. Alright folks, here we are with the first step to brew kombucha. The first thing you need to do is brew tea. Kombucha starts with sweet tea. That's where it all starts. Now, I use green tea. You can use regular black tea. There's many types of tea you can use. I have found, for me personally, I get the best carbonation out of green tea. I've tried regular black tea. Just does not work for me. That's not to say that you can't use it. This is just what works good for me. It's good old green tea from Walmart. Okay. I use 8 tea bags to a pot of water. Everybody knows how to brew tea, but I'll go through it anyway. Anyway, boil water, 8 tea bags, and let the tea bags steep for about 20 minutes or so. Spoon here, get the bags out. Try not to break them. Alright, gallon pitcher, 1 full cup of regular white sugar. By the way, we're on a ketogenic diet, and that's the only reason I keep sugar in the house. We don't eat sugar in our diet. I only keep sugar in the house for brewing kombucha. Anyway, tea. Into the pot. And then just take regular water and fill it on up to make a gallon. Anyway, there you have it, a gallon of tea. I'm going to go ahead and finish topping that off. You want a full gallon, 1 cup of sugar, 8 green tea bags, pot of water. Make tea, and this has to come to complete room temperature. It's got to be room temperature. It'll kill your culture. And in the next segment of this video, I'll go to where I have my brew station set up, and we'll talk about the cultures and stuff. But for now, all we've done is just made 1 gallon of sweet tea. We'll go from there in the next set. Hey folks, I'm back. It's a few hours later. That gallon of tea we made is now room temperature, and we're ready to go with the next process here. To brew kombucha, you're going to need a couple jars. You're going to need one to brew in. This is just a Walmart jar. Literally like $7 or $8 for this thing. And then you're going to need a second jar that's called a hotel. Every time you brew a batch of kombucha, you're going to grow a new SCOBY. Now, what is a SCOBY? It's an acronym that stands for Symbiotic Culture of Yeast and Bacteria, or bacteria and yeast, whatever. This is the actual culture that grows. Basically what you're doing is taking this culture and you're fermenting the tea, and you're drinking a fermented drink. So every time you brew a batch, you're going to grow a new SCOBY, and after a while you're going to get a bunch of them, and you're going to need somewhere to put them. So that's when you take your extras and you put them in a hotel. The hotel is just a place to store them in case you ever get mold or drop your brew vessel, or if you want to give them to your friends or sell them or whatever. Anyway, in the first part of this video, you saw a bunch of bottles sitting on the table that I had just bottled up. I bottled it straight out of here. There's 2 or 3 SCOBYs in there, that's fine. And I saved back 2 or 3 cups of liquid. That's basically called your starter tea. It's full of the bacteria and yeast and all the goodies in there that you need to brew your next batch. So you want to leave at least 1 SCOBY, and you want to leave 2 to 3 cups of the kombucha or the starter tea left in there. Take that gallon of tea, let me switch hands, I'm right-handed, and fill it up. Fill it up pretty high, right up to the neck. See if I can get a shot of that. Right up to the neck. And I usually give it a good stir. And when you set up your brew station, you want to put this in a place in your house where you're not going to mess with it. It does not like to be disturbed. You need it in a place where you can just literally put it and leave it. Now it's going to sit here, and it's going to usually takes anywhere from 7 to 9 days to brew and ferment, and a new SCOBY will grow right on the top there. I'll check back in about 4 days and show how the new SCOBY is progressing. Now with your hotel, usually you'll have a little bit of tea left over, and you have to feed your hotel because you got a bunch of hungry SCOBYs in there, and you just give them a little bit of sweet tea. And that keeps all your SCOBYs in there healthy. The other thing you want to do is you want to cover these jars up with just a paper towel or a terry cloth cotton towel. They have to have air. You want to make it tight enough where debris and bugs and stuff can't get in, but air still can get in. Can't do that one-handed. Anyway, I'm probably leaving out a lot of information that I'm forgetting about, but we've got our brew set up. We had a couple SCOBYs in there, 2 or 3 cups of starter tea. We filled it up with sweet tea, and literally it just gets left alone. It'll do its thing. You don't need to stir it. You don't need to do anything. It'll go through its own fermentation process, and within about 3 days you'll see the new SCOBY growing on top. I'll check back in a few days and show the progress of it. And once again, your hotel is where you keep your extra SCOBYs That liquid in there is very, very strong vinegar. That's the other thing. If you let your brew go too long, it'll turn to vinegar eventually. That is very strong vinegar. You don't want to drink that. You can use it as starter tea. You can absolutely use it as starter tea, and in case you ever drop your brew vessel or get mold or whatever, you can use that, and it works really well. It's just very strong. So anyway, I'll get these covered back up, and I'll check back in a few days. All right, see ya. Hey folks, so it's 3 days later, and the kombucha that I bottled up in the beginning of this video has been sitting actually in the garage because the weather's been nice. It's been sitting in the garage for 3 days, and I'm ready to put it in the refrigerator. And just to show something here, if you look at the bottles, you can actually see little mini scobies forming. You gotta keep in mind this is still an active culture, so it's still going through a fermentation process. Anyway, these are going in the fridge now, and as soon as it's cold, you can drink it. It's ready to go. And when I get later into the video, I'm going to talk about the second ferment and flavoring and stuff. This video is kind of going in a circle backwards, but it'll all make sense when it's all together. All right? See you another day or so. Okay, folks, I'm back. It's day 5 of the brew. Dated that the 6th. Today is the 11th, so 5 days. Just want to give an update. If you look, you can see all the scobies are pushed to the top, and the new SCOBY is forming and actually about to push out of the jar, so it's going along well. I'm going to try to get this on camera. It's hard to do, but you can actually see the carbonation forming. If you look real close there, you can see the bubbles rising to the top. That's carbon dioxide building. You can see the carbonation building up there under the SCOBY. That brown stuff, don't worry about it. That's yeast, which is a byproduct of the fermentation. The culture feeds on the sugar and feeds on the tannins in the tea. Fermentation happens, and carbonation is carbon dioxide building up. I'm going to taste it. This is how I taste it. I take a straw and I run it down beside the SCOBY. And just take a sip. Okay, that's still really sweet. So it needs another, that's really sweet. It needs another at least 2 days, if not more. So I'll be back in 2 days and check it again. Alright, out. Alright, today is day 9 since I started this brew, and we're going to finish it up today. Now, to save time on video, what I have done is I've taken, this was full of the brew, the kombucha brew, and I put it in these 2 pitchers right here, just so I can do this without cutting the camera off. So that's what I've done so far. This has a spigot on it. I just put it in these 2 pitchers here. And there is my new gallon of sweet tea that I made this morning. Now over here I have my bottles ready to put the kombucha in. Now this is called the second ferment. You don't have to flavor it if you don't want to. Flavoring it just adds a little bit more, well, basically flavor to it. Some people drink it plain, some people like to flavor it. The last batch I did was flavored a little bit too much, and it was a little bit sweet for me. So this batch I'm doing with, and again, to save time and not having to cut away on the video, I diced up some fresh ginger and fresh lemon. So this is going to be like a lemon ginger flavored. I diced it up real small and put it in these bottles. I think I mentioned it in the first part of the video that these are just Zephyr Hills sparkling water bottles. So what we're going to do from here is take the kombucha and just pour it in these bottles. see the carbonation in there. Pardon my idiot dog slurping water in the background. Alright, so there you go. I like to leave a little bit of headspace in the bottles. That gives the carbonation a place to build up. And I'll go ahead and cap those, and again, it'll sit on the counter for about 3 days, and then in the fridge, and then as soon as it's cold, it's ready to go. And again, here's the brew vessel. My scobies are in there, and I left about 3 cups of fluid of the starter tea. New pitcher of tea. And back on the counter where it was, and that's it. That's all there is to it. Alright, hope y'all enjoyed it. Thanks. Alright, one thing I forgot to mention, you need to really watch the pressure build up in these bottles while it is sitting out. There have been many cases where the bottles explode because of carbonation. You really want to use a bottle that is designed for brewing, like beer brewing, because they can handle carbonation buildup. Now these are cheap water bottles, and they're kind of cool because you can tell when the carbonation is building, because you can squeeze it and feel when the plastic is hard. All right. It should go without saying that you need to be careful and put them in a place that, in case they do explode, it won't make a mess. A lot of people will put it in the garage inside an ice chest, which is a great idea. In the beginning, when I was scared of it, that's what I did. I've never had one explode, knock on wood. These are cheap flip-top bottles from IKEA. The Grolsch beer bottles work great from what people have told me. You can also order these swing top bottles from Amazon. So as the brew is sitting outside for your 3 days, you really need to check it periodically and make sure you're not getting too much carbonation. If you're getting too much, you need to loosen the caps and burp them and let some carbonation out. So I just wanted to come back and mention that. Alright, once again, this will be on the counter for 3 days, in the garage and in the fridge and ready to drink. See ya.